Hi there, Tahsun. So we've got your last set of essays here. Let's take a look at what you've done. We have the flow chart with the production of tea. Let's see what you wrote. The flow chart illustrates the steps of making tea. At first glance, sorting and cleaning and drying are the common steps for producing white, green, oolong, and black tea. Okay, it feels a little bit like a detail rather than an overview. So, I mean, it's okay, but actually, I would have put um, this particular sentence in with my details and not with my overview. So, what would a good overview have been? Well, you could have talked about what the simplest tea to produce was and the most difficult tea. So you could have said something like white tea had the fewest steps, whereas oolong had the most, or has and has. Or you could say that the three tea types can be used. Oh no, actually, why don't we do this? All the tea types can be used to produce scented tea except for white tea. Okay, so these are just some general things that you can see immediately looking at this. I don't disagree with what you wrote, but I do feel that that particular sentence would have been better in the detail paragraph. Okay, all right, so let's take a look. There are 5 different methods to produce 5 different types of tea. Tea leaves have to be withered to make green oolong and black tea. Withered. Okay. In the next step for green tea, we need to steam tea leaves, which is also applicable for producing white tea. In the last step, these leaves have to be dried for both white and green tea. However, jasmine has to be added to produce green tea. Okay, let's see. Did you talk about pan frying at all? No, you just said that we steam them, but it doesn't say just steam. It says pan fry, steam, or fire. So you didn't really say that, did you? You just said steam. Okay, so you're missing a little bit of information there. The third step for making oolong is short fermentation. In contrast, full fermentation of tea leaves is required to make a black tea. In the last step, leaves will be dried to produce both types of tea. Scented tea is produced from green, black, or oolong tea. Thus, making scented tea includes steps of those types of tea. After producing one of the 3 types, leaves need to be dried and scented with flowers or fruits. Instead of drying, cooling of tea leaves is needed to produce scented tea. Okay, so here's the good news about this. I thought your grammar was good, your vocabulary was good. I do feel like you missed some information, and I also didn't love the way you organized this. I like that you tried to find connections between green and white tea, although I don't think that that was entirely effective. So I can give you a couple of suggestions about how I might do this. So I would obviously introduce it just as you did. I would say the flowchart illustrates the steps involved in producing 5 tea types. Okay, and then I would say of these types, white is the simplest process, whereas oolong is the most complicated. And then I would say that all teas begin with leaves being sorted and cleaned. The last step is also common to all tea types, and that is that the teas are dried. Only white tea has an intermediate step, which is steaming. And then you're done with white tea. You don't have to talk about it again. The other 3 tea types, green, oolong, and black, share their second step, which is withering. Following this, only green tea is pan-fried, steamed, or fired. Okay? However, all 3 tea types involve rolling as their next process. Green tea can also be shaped. Oolong tea can be rolled, and black tea can also be cut. Okay? Then you're done with green tea. For oolong and black tea, fermentation is the next step involved. For oolong, this is short, whereas for black, this is full. And then oolong is the only one that has an additional step before drying, which is pan frying. Okay, so then that's it. You're done. You've talked about all the steps. Then you could talk about the production of scented tea. So that's kind of how I would have done this. I think it's clear, right? I think it makes for an easy sort of understanding of this. But that's just one way you could do it. That's the way I would probably do this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Trying to find commonalities, which I think you did. But that's just how I would do it. Your grammar and your vocabulary were good. On the whole, I thought you did a nice job, okay? Just be careful. Again, you know what another problem with your overview was? You never talked about this step again. So you started here with the sorting and cleaning, and then you talked about withering. So just because you mentioned something in your overview, that doesn't mean you are done talking about it and you don't mention it in your details. In fact, when you do that, it looks like what you're saying is a detail and is not an overview. So as an examiner, I would probably look at this and think, oh, okay, well, there's no overview here at all. This is just, part of the details, but, it's just here with the introduction. Okay? So that's something I want you to think about. Okay, so grammar good, vocabulary good, just a little work with your overview. That's important. Let's take a look at your task 2 now about the benefits and drawbacks of companies moving to regional locations. Let's see. Local governments, I would make this plural, are forcing companies to move from large cities to regional locations. Both the advantages and disadvantages will be discussed below with supported evidence. All right, it's a little basic, but fine. I thought that some of your vocabulary could have been a little more original. Look, you've got essentially the same language. The only thing you really changed was pushing to forcing. That's the only change. This is not going to really fare well in terms of vocabulary because you're really not producing any original vocabulary at all. Please do try to show that you have language capabilities to produce your own vocabulary here. Okay, so there are some benefits of moving companies from large cities. Firstly, moving companies will reduce population since employees working in these companies will move to the nearest places to continue their jobs without any problem. All right, so in a short span of time, in like 2 lines, you've used the word company 3 times. So again, vocabulary. You could have, number 1, use different vocabulary, or number 2, use some sort of cohesive device to make this link better and not repeat the same word. So there are some benefits to moving companies from large cities. First of all, this move will reduce the population in urban areas since the employees will move to these regional areas to continue their jobs. Full stop. Okay? So just using these, the, and so forth, I got rid of all of these instances of companies, okay? Secondly, it will mitigate pollution from the cities. Companies located in the cities, again, cities, avoid this. There are cohesive, there are ways of using cohesion to prevent this kind of a situation. Let's see how you could have done it. Secondly, it will mitigate pollution from cities. Companies located in metropolises or in metropolitan areas. So that's one way, using a synonym. They produce harmful gases and waste which cause pollution, and as a result, people suffer from various diseases. Thus, moving mega companies to regional locations can reduce the amount of pollution in these cities. For instance, according to an article from Business Insider in Bangladesh, some large apparel industries moved from a megacity Rajshahi to a regional location, helped it reduce pollution by 1/3. Okay, fine. Let's see. In contrast, good. I'm glad that you used in contrast. That's nice. Hold on. Let me see what happened here with my mouse. There we go. In contrast, there are some drawbacks regarding this issue. The issue. Fine. I would have preferred this issue. When companies will be moved to a regional location, people will gather there to find jobs. Hence, the place will become densely populated. In large cities, there are many schools, shops, and hospitals which may not be available in those places. As a result, employees have to travel to the cities to get these facilities, and this will cost both time and money. Okay, that's all right. I think you could have developed it a little bit more. I think you could have used some vocabulary which would have provided more precision here. So, for example, the word you were looking for maybe was infrastructure. So it's not just that you said they may not be available in those areas. Rather than saying this, okay, which is, you're basically using some pretty elementary vocabulary here, you could have changed it. So I would have said this, hence, the place will become densely populated without the appropriate infrastructure, causing people to travel to the cities to obtain these services. Okay? This will result in lost time and money. So something like that. That's one way you could have done it. But yeah, I think the word you were looking for here was infrastructure, and it would have been a nice word to use. So yeah, this was fine. Again, vocabulary was a little basic, and I thought you could have developed it maybe just a little bit more. You could have said something about this. Yes, okay. So in conclusion, pushing companies to move, again, it's move to. What am I doing here? Hold on. Okay. Pushing companies to move to regional locations without the will decrease the population as well as the amount of pollution in large cities. However, this will increase population in which regions? In those regions. Which ones? In the countryside, in the outside the cities, something. People have to spend both their time and money to go to cities as in these places, many facilities are unavailable. All right, it's a little bit too much of a repeat of what you just wrote. I feel like it's a lot of the same vocabulary. You do need to kind of widen your range of the language you're using. That would be very helpful here. Okay. On the whole, I thought it was good. You did a nice job of it. But I think there were things that could have been better here. For me, primarily, it was the vocabulary. I thought you should have used some higher level, more precise vocabulary if you're aiming for one of those high scores, 7, 8, 9. Okay? Everything you said did its job. All right? I mean, everything was understandable. There was nothing that was unclear. But if you're looking for a high scoring essay, then I think some better vocabulary and some more development would have been useful. All right, let's take a look at this one. This is billing distribution. Billing? Okay. Billing distribution for the month of August 2015. Okay, let's see what happens here. The pie chart illustrates the billing distribution in August 2015. At first glance, the distribution among the 5 buildings is not equal. Building A occupies the highest portion of the pie chart. In contrast, Building D covers the least portion. All right, that's good. Let's see. Building A, is that what you said? Building A is the most blue, and Building D. Okay, good. So your data is accurate. That's fine. It is noticeable that all the buildings occupy more than 16% and less than 25% of the chart, and there were slight changes in the billing distribution of each building. Careful here. It's not really changes, because changes apply that things are different over time. That's not the case here. You are looking at a snapshot, a photograph, if you will, of one moment in time, August 2015. So any word describing action or motion or change is inaccurate. What you're looking at instead is not really change, but you're looking at variation. That's really what we're looking at. So there were variations in the billing distribution, or there were differences. That would have been a great word. There were slight differences in the building distribution among the buildings. So again, decrease is wrong because nothing is changing. Nothing is becoming less. It's just this had more, this had less. So you need here the language of comparison and not the language of change. Okay? So here we need to be talking about things like more than, less than, equal to, but not words like decreased, increased, incline, improve, lessened. All of these words that show change over time would be incorrect. Okay, so you have to be careful about this. This is what we call a static chart. And by static, we mean there is no movement, there is no change. And so you need to use language of comparison and not language of change or action. All right, so it is noticeable that all buildings occupy more than 16% and less than 25% of the chart, and there was slight differences in the building distribution of each building. Okay, the distribution, let's see, was, you can't really see decrease steadily, was greatest in building A and was less with each building from B to D. Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. It is a little awkward though. Building A covered, because past tense is 2015, okay? 24.3, while it was almost 2% less for building B. There was roughly a 3% difference between building E and B in terms of distribution, where building A accounted for, you already said that. Look, 24.3, 24, I don't know why you're doing that again. Okay, and I don't like this word occupies. You've used it before. It's not entirely appropriate. Accounted for would have been nice. Don't overuse it, but it would have been a good word here. Building D contributes 16.4% of the chart, around 9% less than building A, almost the same as building B. Okay. Building A, C, and E cover almost 60% of the chart in combination or in total, and each occupies roughly 1/5 of the chart. Another two occupy around 1/10 of the chart separately. You mean each, right? 1/10. Why 1/10? I don't understand that. Do I? Let me see. So you're saying that B and D occupy 1/10. All right, I don't totally understand that. I wouldn't say that I agree with that at all. So that's a little strange. 1/10 would be like 10%, so I'm not really sure why you said that. Okay, I mean, I think it would have been more appropriate to say that building A occupied almost a quarter or accounted for almost a quarter, and that building E was about 1/5, okay? Building C was in between those two, and buildings B and D were roughly 1/3 together. Okay, you could have said that. So I think something like that would have been okay. All right, so yeah, I mean, there are some issues here, partially with vocabulary and some repetition. Okay, so, but it was okay, but again, it needed a little work. So that brings us to the end of this set. You're going to get an email, of course, and it will invite you to sign up for some more essays with us. I'd like to see you doing some more. If you're finding the stuff that we're talking about in these corrections helpful, then I definitely want to recommend continuing and having us do more work together and having us do more essays to help you um, kind of work your way through how to deal with some of these um, exercises and some of these tasks. Okay. Hopefully, we can continue together. I really look forward to it. And no matter what you decide, I want to wish you lots and lots of luck.